What if there was a crop that produced more calories per acre than potatoes? It survives freezing winters that kill wheat. It grows in soil so poor that nothing else will take root. And once you plant it, you never have to plant it again. It comes back every year, spreading underground, impossible to erase. For thousands of years, it fed entire communities through drought and famine. Then modern agriculture looked at it and made a different calculation. Not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. A plant that grows without permission, without purchased seeds, without chemical inputs, cannot be controlled. And what cannot be controlled cannot be sold. This is the story of the crop that big agriculture quietly buried, not in the ground, but in memory. It is still out there, growing wild, waiting for the world to remember what it threw away. There is a plant that breaks every rule industrial farming depends on. It does not wait for perfect conditions. It does not die when neglected. It does not need to be replanted each season. You put it in the ground once, and it returns year after year, spreading through underground networks that no tractor can fully remove. Try to kill it, and fragments left behind will sprout into new plants by spring. Its tubers sit beneath the soil like a living pantry, waiting until you need them. No refrigeration, no warehouses, no race against rot. It delivers more calories per acre than most staple crops, thrives in cold that would destroy corn, and laughs at drought. From a survival standpoint, this plant solves problems. It asks for nothing and gives everything. Yet somehow, it vanished from mainstream agriculture. Not because yields dropped, not because people stopped eating it. It disappeared because it could not be controlled. And in a system built on control, that was unforgivable. So what exactly is this plant? The plant is called Jerusalem artichoke. It is also known as sunchoke. Despite the name, it has nothing to do with Jerusalem or artichokes. It is a species of sunflower, Helianthus tuberosus, native to the eastern woodlands and Great Lakes region of North America. It grows tall, sometimes 8 to 10 feet, crowned with bright yellow flowers that follow the sun. But the real treasure is underground. Knobby tubers, white, purple, or gold, are packed with stored energy in the form of inulin rather than starch. Indigenous peoples across the continent cultivated it for centuries before Europeans arrived. The Iroquois told stories of its sacred origin. Tribes from the Atlantic coast to the Great Plains planted it once and harvested it forever. It spread through rhizomes beneath the soil, returning without effort. When French explorer Samuel de Champlain landed in Massachusetts in 1605, the Algonquin people fed him these tubers. He compared the taste to artichokes and brought them back to Europe. But long before that voyage, this plant was already feeding nations. It just did not need anyone's permission. And systems built on control rarely tolerate that. For the communities that understood it, the Jerusalem artichoke was not just food. It was insurance. The tubers stayed underground until needed, surviving frost, surviving drought, surviving neglect. You did not harvest them all at once and hope they would not spoil. You dug them up when hunger arrived. They waited. In 1805, the Lewis and Clark expedition nearly starved crossing the Dakotas. Sacagawea saved them by locating mouse caches filled with sunchoke tubers buried for winter. She roasted them over fire and kept the men alive. The plant did not care about growing seasons or storage infrastructure. It simply persisted. In poor soil, it grew. In freezing cold, it grew. It fixed nitrogen, improved the ground it lived in, and asked for nothing in return. Communities that relied on it did not need granaries or climate-controlled facilities. The earth itself was the pantry. Every spring, without planting a single seed, the crop returned. This was resilience designed by evolution. A food source that could not be destroyed by weather, war, or neglect. Unless someone decided it was inconvenient to the systems that needed scarcity. If you want more forgotten histories like this one, consider subscribing to keep these stories alive. From a biological standpoint, the Jerusalem artichoke is built for chaos. It resists pests naturally. It shrugs off drought. It tolerates cold down to -30 degrees Celsius. Its roots crack compacted soil and restore land that monocultures have drained. It does all of this without fertilizers, without pesticides, without irrigation. Studies have shown that sunchokes produce around 64,000 calories per acre without a single drop of added water. Potatoes, even under ideal conditions with irrigation, yield roughly 53,000. The sunchoke outperforms using less. It does not need a controlled seed supply because it regenerates from tuber fragments. Leave a piece in the ground, and next spring you have a new plant. It does not need annual replanting because it is perennial. It simply returns, year after year, stronger than before. From a survival perspective, this plant solves the very problems modern agriculture keeps creating: depleted soil, water scarcity, dependence on chemical inputs, vulnerability to climate shocks. The Jerusalem artichoke handled all of it, and that is precisely why it became a problem. Industrial agriculture does not reward resilience. It rewards control. Crops must ripen on schedule. They must be harvested by machine. They must ship without bruising, store for months, and look identical under fluorescent lights. The Jerusalem artichoke refuses every one of these demands. Its tubers mature at different times. They spoil faster than potatoes. Standard harvesters lose half the crop because the tubers cling to roots and hide in the soil. Efficient harvest requires specialized equipment or hand labor. Neither scales, neither profits. There is another problem. The plant spreads. Any fragment left behind becomes a new colony. You cannot contain it neatly within designated rows. For a system built on predictability and annual seed purchases, this is a nightmare. You cannot patent a plant that replicates itself freely. You cannot sell fertilizer to a crop that does not need it. You cannot create dependency when the crop provides independence. The Jerusalem artichoke was not abandoned because it underperformed. It was abandoned because it could not be owned. Once the decision was made, the story changed. A plant that had fed communities for millennia became a weed. Agricultural literature began describing it as invasive, unmanageable, unsuitable for commercial production. The same traits that made it valuable, its persistence, its spread, its refusal to die, were reframed as flaws. Farming systems moved toward crops that demanded annual seed purchases and centralized chemical inputs. Corn, soy, wheat. Crops that created dependency. Crops that fit the factory model. The sunchoke did not fit. It grew without asking. It fed without charging. It returned without permission. And so it was pushed to the margins. Roadsides, ditches, forgotten corners where no one planted and no one profited. In Europe, survivors of the Second World War refused to eat it. They associated the tuber with occupation and starvation, the only food left when everything else was seized. The vegetable that kept children alive became a symbol of suffering. It was erased from cookbooks, from markets, from memory, because it succeeded without chains, and chains were the business model. Now the world is changing. Climate models warn that over 30% of global crop yields could collapse by 2050 as heat and drought intensify. The crops feeding 8 billion people were bred for stability. That stability is ending, and quietly, researchers are turning back to the plants that never needed it. The Jerusalem artichoke is being studied for marginal lands, for food security, for low-input farming in places where industrial systems are already failing. Its inulin content supports gut health in ways modern diets have abandoned. Its perennial roots prevent erosion and rebuild exhausted soil. It stores energy underground where drought cannot reach. The very traits that made it uncontrollable are now the traits that make it essential. It cannot be patented, it cannot be owned. It simply grows, returns, and waits. As one researcher noted, this plant remembers how to survive when everything else forgets. We did not lose the Jerusalem artichoke. We just convinced ourselves we did not need it. But the tubers are still there, buried in forgotten fields, ready for hands willing to dig. The crop that refused to be controlled may be the one that saves us.